Hey guys, this is Issues with Toddie One Skip, and I am Toddie One Skip, and I have half of the dynamic duo here. I have Lovey from Night Combos. Welcome to the channel again. It's great to see you, Lovey. How you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, not a problem. So hubby wasn't able to make it this evening. I know he's got those weird shifts, and
Right.
so tell me, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. I see you guys have been doing some shorts. Um, or you've been doing shorts, I should say. And so where you been? What's been going on? What's going on over there?
Basically, that what you said. He's been working like some swing shifts where he's been having to do 12-hour night shifts and then be off like a day or two or like a 24-hour period or so, and then going to day shift and then having to switch to night
The
shift the very
swing
next
shift.
day.
He's doing
Yeah.
those he that
And it's
happened
12 hours at a
before.
time.
Yeah, that happened before. I remember that happening before with you guys. That
Yeah, it did.
that happens. So you prefer to do videos with him, full length videos with hubby, right?
Yeah, when I can. I mean, I don't mind doing some videos by myself. Some I like to do by myself. but
No offense,
but
hubby.
yeah, no offense, hubby, when he hears this. But yeah, I do like to do some by myself. I just I prefer to do them with him sometimes, but for the most part, yeah. There's just certain topics that I know he hasn't watched a video on per se, so he wouldn't know what I'm talking about, because he
Right.
hadn't watched it or seen it or heard about it. So yeah, and then this time with him being on those swing shifts, I was trying to kind of be on the same schedule as him, and
Okay.
it's hard even even without working like that. I mean, it makes you tired. You just eat, shower, sleep, and work.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, but it's cool that you do that and that you're able to do that. So enough about you guys because I really don't care. I want to know, Gypsy Rose. So listen, I have come up with this new theory, just so you know.
oh
Um,
boy.
yep. That listen, I think that okay. So think about this. Gypsy was talking to Nick for 2 years about she wasn't talking all the time about unaliving her mom. Gypsy's a very impulsive woman. We know this. She was a very impulsive kid. We know this. But
Hmm.
she was also very calculated, but not very patient. I don't think anymore for 2 years that she was doing that with Nick. I think, let me tell you why. Because she wouldn't be that patient. I think she was triangulating Nick against Dan, which is her MO, right? And then
Yeah.
I think something happened like a week or two before the actual unaliving where she reached out to Nick and said, "It's over. She's you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like we're missing something there because first of all, I don't believe for a second she was only talking to Nick for those 2 years. I believe that she was talking to Dan too. And we know she was talking to Dan because Nick even said something in the interrogation room, right?
Yeah, and in one of her videos to Nick, she even blamed Dan and his new girlfriend for leaking those pictures of her, the ones where, people were saying that she sent it to Rod and stuff.
Well, she did
So,
send it to Rod too. She said, "What the
yeah, I mean,
hell?
she
Get
did.
it all out there."
Yeah, she did. But she blamed it on Dan, and I think she was doing that for two reasons: to manipulate Nick and to get Nick mad and jealous, and also because she knew she was still talking to Dan, and she's so narcissistic that she wanted she wanted someone to be jealous about that. She wanted to be like, hey, this guy still cares about me so much and he still wants me. And I think that's why his new girlfriend released those pictures, because she hates that Dan still wants me.
She
Dan didn't still want
triangulates.
you.
She triangulates just like she did
Yes.
Ryan with Ken, right? So
Yep.
so
And Brian. Did you know about that?
well, okay, go ahead. No, no, no. Tell me, please.
Well,
I
the
do know
guy,
about the name Brian, but please, in case people don't know, please.
Brian is with a B, because I
Right,
have that southern slang. I don't know if you can tell I'm saying Brian, but Brian is someone that she dated in prison. He came to see her. There's pictures of them. We've shown them on our channel, but Brian is someone she dated. I'm not exactly sure of the timelines, but I think he kind of crossed over. She was supposed to be talking to Ken or dating Ken at the same time, because there's pictures of Ken holding up a sign at a on a street corner where the street is named like Blanchard Road or
right,
something.
right, right,
He's
right.
holding up a sign saying "Happy Birthday, Gypsy." Meanwhile, Brian is, in the prison taking pictures with Gypsy. And so that was somebody she dated. And you were talking about her triangulating Ryan and Ken. Well, she's also, still in contact with Brian. Last summer when they went to Miami, and she posted a picture of herself on the beach. It was like a selfie that she took of just herself in her
Right,
bikini or whatever.
right.
Brian got on Facebook and he, clicked like on that photo, and was saying, that you look good or whatever. He kept it short and simple, but still,
Yeah, but
why do
that
you still
doesn't
have
mean that
contact?
they're actually so just in all fairness, like, that doesn't mean and, I'm not trying to stick up for Gypsy Rose, but, um, just, eh, I I don't like, these are relationships that I might have just online with people where it's, and I haven't seen them in decades, you know what I mean? So that
Right.
doesn't mean that you're really conversing per se. Conversing would be like a private message or a phone call or, hey, hit me up for a text. I don't know that, even when we wish people happy birthday on Facebook and stuff like that, like, there's people I haven't seen in years. There was somebody I just wished a happy birthday to, and man, we used to fish together all the time. But I haven't seen her in God, it's got to be 3 decades. But once a year or on the holiday, happy birthday, hey, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know that that's. And if I saw a picture of them, I would say probably the same thing. So I don't know that they keep in touch, but the point you made before definitely is the triangulation where
Yeah.
Gypsy is definitely that. So my question would be what she did not it did not take her 2 years to unalive her mom. We know that this whole plan didn't take her that. So do you think that? Do you think she was planning it for 2 years? Or do you think something happened that made her say, yeah, my mom's doing this, my mom's doing that? Because we watched a lot of these videos.
Hmm.
She didn't say shit about her mom to Nick, did she? Or did I miss
Yeah.
something?
No, I've seen some videos, and again, I couldn't tell you the timeline right off the top of my head, but I know some were from before 2015. When it got to be 2015, like January 2015, the crime
Right.
occurred in June. So, like 5 months, 6 months before the crime, yeah, she was talking about it. And then there's
Okay.
like a video before that, like a year or at least about a year or so before that, where, she was telling him, my mom's so, this, or my mom's so that, complaining about her mom, and this is the way it would have to be for us to be together. But then there was also a video, but I just think it was just part of her manipulating him,
That's what I'm saying.
planning.
That's okay. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying the actual planning and unaliving wasn't. I think she wanted to know, was he capable of doing it? Could he do it? If it's something that she actually wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that, okay, so she took shots at Gypsy. I mean, Gypsy took shots at Dee Dee with the BB gun.
Right.
We know that you're not going to unalive anybody with a BB gun. Fair enough, you're not. But she
Yeah.
also said something. I mean, you could. I guess you could, honestly. If you probably could if you held the thing up to somebody's temple and just kept shooting. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. But
So,
Dee Dee took off running
right,
or walking, trying to get away or something.
right. And then there was the second time with what they call the dagger. You're probably more familiar with that than I am. Do you know that the second time that they're saying with Gypsy that tried to unalive her mom?
Yeah, we've heard about that, and we've even shown pictures of the daggers, but we don't know when she did that or what she tried to do. Like we don't know I can't think of the word I'm trying to use.
Okay.
We don't know about like the details and stuff of what
Right.
happened there.
Right. But we do know that there was a second time. But here's
Yeah,
the thing. Here's also what we know. We know that that Gypsy mentioned Ambien, that her mother was taking Ambien, which is like Valium, right?
right, yeah,
So if Gypsy wanted to unalive her mom, like she uses the gun, then there's the dagger situation, and then there's all this Ambien, and her mom's in bed, and her mom's drinking Coke and Pepsi or whatever. I think they were Pepsi drinkers, right?
right.
Why aren't you taking a shitload of Ambien and putting it in your mom's soda and giving it to her?
I agree, and that's like another thing you've said before too. She could have absolutely taken one of her mom's syringes, put a little air in it, right to the neck. It would have been so quick, quick and easy. But she
And
didn't do that
if
either.
she had waited, and truthfully, if she would have waited long enough, and that would have happened. Let's just say that that would have happened. Or
Mhm.
like she didn't have to put it in the neck, right? Can't she just put it in somebody's like vein
Yeah,
or non-vein? So it could be exactly where she would have given her mom insulin, right? She could have gone right into the same hole where the injection was and put
right.
air in there, right? So
Yeah,
then she waits till the morning. Let's say that she does this. Let's think about it. She does it at 8 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock. She can even do it as early as 6 o'clock at night. And then at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock the next morning, she goes to wake up her mom, and her mom doesn't wake up. And she calls the police and says, "My mom, my mom, my mom."
right.
See, any of these things could have happened at any time. My question is, why didn't they? She took a BB gun and shot at her mom. And we saw proof that that's not something Gypsy fabricated, because there's an emergency room report and we see it. You know what I'm saying? So we know this. So why did it take so long? What made it happen at that time? What was the catalyst that made it happen then? You know what I'm saying? And why didn't she do it herself? I just, do you see where it's like, what's going on here? Like, there's something we're totally missing something, in my
Well,
opinion. And
if she
that hasn't
did,
come out yet. Go ahead.
no, not that I know of, but like if she did OD her mom with insulin or put the air, in the syringe and do it that way, to give her an embolism or something,
She could have kept
it
the
still would have
money,
came.
right? She could
It,
have kept
it,
the
yeah,
money.
it still could have came back on her though if they did an autopsy,
But why
or
would they do an
something.
autopsy? Why would they do an autopsy on a sickly woman who's obese? that they would have found later. Okay, so like I'm saying, Gypsy could have done this at 6 o'clock in the night. Now I don't know much about the medical stuff. You know a little bit about it. Becca knows a lot more. But
Yeah.
if she would have given her the insulin shot, and
Mhm.
then Gypsy says, let's say her story is she wakes up in the morning 9, 10 o'clock. Okay. She wakes up in the morning and she goes to wake up her mom, and her mom doesn't wake up. And she
Mhm.
says to a police officer, my mom's not been well. Last time I saw her was at like 6 o'clock last night, where I gave her a soda. And, everybody thinks everybody's good, that we see videos. She loves her daughter. Gypsy loves her mom.
Yeah,
You
I
know what
mean,
I'm
but they
saying?
still might would have done an autopsy. I mean, they might not have. They might not have, but they still might would have done one since she had a sudden, death
But
out of
remember, all
nowhere.
that stuff came out about how sick she actually was, right? Like,
Yeah.
she had a lot of stuff going on. She could have easily had a heart attack. She was obese. I'm not trying to talk
Yeah.
you into
No,
anything,
no, no, no,
but
no.
what I'm
That no, I'm
saying is
thinking about what
she
you're
really could
saying.
have gotten the money. She could have gotten the money. I don't know that they might have kept her in the house, right? It
Mhm.
Because something like that, they might have just kept Gypsy in the house, because it's not her fault her mom died, and Gypsy's still a sickly person. If she was going to live in the house, that's the whole thing, because you got a lot of the community saying no, she wanted the house, and I'm saying, why would she want to live in the neighborhood that kind of imprisoned her in a wheelchair? Like, to me, like, doesn't that make sense? You would take the money and run, and go
Yeah.
be somebody else. So,
Right, yeah.
which is my theory about what happened that night. You know what I'm saying? Like, what happened that night was, it was supposed to look like a botched home invasion, and Nick, in my opinion, as you know, was supposed to
Yeah.
um stay
Not
there.
leave.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and not leave the same way Dee Dee left. And then they would have only looked for Gypsy for only a short period of time, to be honest with you,
Mhm.
because, I mean, Gypsy, they would have assumed, would have died, because she has all this medication, all this stuff is wrong with her, and she can't walk. In the meantime, they wouldn't have been looking for a woman with a bunch of wigs with dance outfits and, and dancing. They wouldn't have been. But Gypsy couldn't keep the house that way, but she could have kept all the money and started again with somebody. And
Yeah.
that's what I think the plan was. But then I think the person that was supposed to be part of that plan, I don't know that they actually knew anything about the plan. But in Gypsy's mind, the person that was supposed to be part of that plan said, fucking no, I ain't doing it. And now she's stuck with Nick. Because listen, I can't buy into, well, I was going to stay with him, but then I saw his sheets. If that shit was that important to you, you would have said, "Can I please see your room? Like, take a video of your." Wouldn't
Well,
you?
she had plans for them, apparently, from what she told him anyway. She had plans for them to get their own place anyway. They were only supposed to stay at Nick's mom's house for a short time.
Exactly. So
So,
I don't think that Nick was supposed to leave, and then I think everything turned to Plan B, which I don't think she had a Plan B. I think Plan B was winging it. Like,
but do you think she really could have thought about these things that we're saying she could have done? Do you really think like she had the mentality to think about, well, I
surviving
could just,
skills.
huh?
Well, no, no, no. What I think happened, okay, I cut you off, and I'm trying to stop doing that. Please
No,
go
you're
ahead.
good.
No, no, no. Tell me, please.
Like, just do you think she had the mentality, to actually think about, well, I could have used the syringe and OD'd her with insulin, or, caused her to have an air embolism, or, something like that. Do you think she really
Not
could
with
have
that
thought about that?
language. Not with that language. Not with the correct language that you're using. Here's so that's not what I'm okay. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is what I'm saying is she didn't want her mom to die. She didn't want her mom to die a fast, painless death.
Oh, no, I don't believe so
Not
either.
in any which way she tried to take her mom out do we see that. So,
Right.
no. So, but I'm saying the times before they were spontaneous, right? Because she
Yeah.
picked up the BB gun and she
Right.
did that. And then I guess the dagger situation, which is unclear, but somehow, I guess in the comments somebody's going to school us on that, and that's
Yes,
fine.
please let us know the
You know,
details on that.
yeah, because I do know that it's been mentioned a few times. I don't know that we know the details on it. I don't know. We'll see. Because there's a few people that don't even know about that. So that maybe that's something that came in later. I don't know. But when Gypsy, I think she planned on unaliving her mom. I think she wanted to do that.
Yes.
Okay. And I think she spoke to Nick about it to feel Nick out and stuff like that. I do think that. But then the whole plan of doing it was what, 6 months? You said about 6 months in advance that we'll agree on that timeline
Yeah.
where now that we
Six,
see
yeah,
where we
6
see
months to a year, yeah.
documentation. Okay. So
Mhm.
for a whole year, she was actually talking to him about that.
Yeah.
So, but there's somebody else there. Another thing that we're missing. We're missing the
Yes.
conversations between her and another person. So
I
I
do
think,
kinda think that.
and I do think what happens is, um, that she uses Nick to unalive her mom, who she always wanted to unalive in a brutal way, and that's why I think Gypsy took an actual hand in jabbing her mother. I think she did that. I think either Nick took that woman and put her out of her misery, or um that he unalived an unalived woman.
Well, see, the only reason I don't think that he unalived an unalived person is because in the police reports, in all the evidence we've looked at and shown, Nick does say that while he was jabbing her, while he was on top of Dee Dee's back, jabbing her, he said that there was at one point, and it would have been like the second or third jab that would have caused her to go unconscious and thankfully not, feel anything else and, pass away. But now I do kind of think that maybe he finished her off. I do think that. But he said that Dee Dee reached around and grabbed him, grabbed his shirt or jacket, something like that, whatever he had on. She grabbed it, and he says I was able to get loose from her.
Well, I think
But is
that,
that something he was talked into saying?
well, not just talked into saying, so I'm not talking even about a script. I'm talking about somebody coming in on a scene that, first of all, what's going on in your head? um Gypsy can put memories in some, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
while he's doing things, maybe I don't know. I just, I had heard too that she tried to get him off, and I'm thinking, well, maybe somebody's under the bed pushing her up. I mean, I know that I don't mean to be funny, but you know what I'm saying? Uh so even if he did it, let's just say he did it for sake of argument here. I do think that he still wasn't supposed to leave. It was supposed to
Yeah.
look like a botched home invasion. Why so brutal? Why that? And then she left the money behind and then put all these sheets, these, what was the purpose of keeping the sheets there? She was going back to the house. It was so that people couldn't find her mom. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, they need to find my mom because I mean they need to find her. if the thing about Nick again was so important, right?
Yeah.
And then you would have asked what the room looked like, or you would have said, okay, when are we moving? Like, let's go. You know what I'm saying? So I really don't think Nick was supposed to leave. And, maybe he put her out of her misery. Maybe she was already dead and somebody else was pulling on him that he didn't realize. I don't, we were told two people were at the scene, but we don't know that two people were at the scene. Just two
Right.
people were at
I
the
do
scene.
think that there was someone else there. I mean, there was a guy named, so Sebastian, she was talking to, that was actually it's in the evidence photos and stuff, where he was connected to the Wi-Fi, to Dee Dee's Wi-Fi. But then someone also told us that, when we talked about that before, on our channel, someone told us, well, Gypsy probably named it that. You know how when you have Wi-Fi, you can name it whatever you want, like
Yep.
with your cell phone. Okay, so like maybe Gypsy named it that after the guy Sebastian that she was talking to, which Sebastian is also another guy she talked to in prison.
Right.
She had kept in touch with him or something. So
Yeah.
that's odd too. But I do believe there was somebody else there. That's why it irritates me that they didn't test that chewing gum that was, outside on the driveway, or the bottle cap. It was the mouthpiece of a water bottle. They didn't
Right.
drink water like that. Whose water bottle was that?
Right. And
And then
there were truck tire, tire marks from a
yeah,
truck. They said that was never.
well, someone said that was where Christy and Rod came to get whatever stuff they got out of the house, but they wouldn't have done it then, when it was, when the police had it taped off and all that. So I don't think that either, because they hadn't even talked to Gypsy yet for Gypsy to even tell them what to get out of the house. You know?
Right. Right. And what do you think about Rod and Christy showing up like that, and then finding out that Rod knew where Gypsy was the whole time, seeing that whole scenario of my mom is getting her gallbladder out and everybody wishing her well. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, like, what do you think about that? That blew you away, didn't it? Blew me away. Blew me away.
It did, yeah, it did me too. And even when I showed hubby, he was like, "What?" And they didn't question them further. I I was really surprised about that. They just simply had a like simple conversation basically with Rod. And we haven't even seen the conversation they had with Christy, if they did, but the one with Rod was taped. But it was like they were just talking, and that was it. They didn't push him further. That's just like the girls that Nick was still in touch with, his ex-girlfriends and friends that he called sister or whatever.
Right, right, right.
Why weren't they questioned? That he actually told them, a while. That's how we also know that she planned it, for longer as well.
Well, now that
Because
I'm hearing all of this other stuff, to be honest with you, and I've heard it before, you're still trying to put pieces together. In my opinion, that's what I'm trying to do, is put pieces together.
Mhm.
So I believe that Gypsy saw, possibly, that she didn't want to, like, she had to do away with her mom,
Yeah.
simply for whatever reason. To take over the house, to live there, which I still don't understand. How are you going to tell your neighbors that supposedly, yeah, I don't even know if her neighbors thought she could walk, she couldn't walk. I heard that they were shocked that they found out she was walking. So there you're going to live, excuse me, the same exact way you've been living. So your freedom, I mean, unless that was just never a big deal and you wanted to continue like that and in the house just be yourself, that would
Yeah.
get
Or
old to me. And I would think that would get old.
unless she just simply didn't think that far ahead. I don't know, because I absolutely believe she has ASPD. antisocial personality disorder,
Okay.
which because like
Well,
uh
explain what that is to the viewers, please. Explain what that is.
okay, well to like summarize it, it's kind of basically like someone who has psychopathy and sociopathy. Uh, you know, they're like they're a psychopath and a sociopath. A
Okay.
sociopath does things like at the spur of the moment. Like what you were talking about. They'll like attack someone. Like right then. They may get mad or whatever, and they'll attack someone or unalive someone. A
Right.
psychopath's gonna plan it out and stuff. We've
Right. Okay.
seen both types of behaviors from Gypsy, where she
Right.
plans things out and where she, will do stuff at the spur of the moment, you know? So that's what
Right.
makes me
That's true.
believe
That's
she's
true.
absolutely both.
No, you're absolutely right. That's true. Wow, that's interesting. So so let me ask you this. And I've asked Becca this, and this is where Becca and I disagree. So I think I I did originally think that Dee Dee died in bed. And I saw the blood in the bed, but I can't help but think that there was a cast off from the knife. I mean, everything I've ever seen about knife stuff, there's always a cast off. And I didn't see that at the
Yeah.
crime scene photos. Did you?
No, and I've thought about that, like, where's the splatter on the ceiling and the wall and everything? But if her heart had stopped, like 2 or 3 jabs in, then, you know, uh, no blood would have been, like, pumping through her body to, you know, have a splatter, like, that much of a
Well,
splatter like
listen,
that.
when you shut water off, right? Like when you shut
Mhm.
water off, there's still water in the hose.
Right, yes, yeah.
So I don't necessarily, so it would just be the luckiest time I just, what I'm saying? Th-
No, it makes sense, like, where is the splatter? Because even if her heart
where
stopped.
is the fucking mess that's everywhere except on Dee Dee?
Yeah, but when you think about it, Gypsy had the splatter on uh, I think it was on her right shoulder, of her shirt. On the right shoulder of her shirt, she had the splatter. There was splatters on Nick's shoes. So that makes me wonder, because if you think about it, if you think about being in the position of straddling someone's back, how did any splatter get on the shoes unless he took his shoes off or something and they were beside the bed? But why would you take time to take your shoes off beside the bed before I would be scared she would wake up or something again,
Right,
unless
right,
she was
right.
already subdued somehow, like
And
already.
supposedly she was, right? Supposedly, Gypsy said that her mom took the sleeping pill, but they didn't find any numbing agent.
Right,
So
there was nothing in her system.
he gets on her, he gets on Dee Dee, and she
Mhm,
doesn't move at all.
mhm.
She only moves when he goes to jab her. I Wouldn't she move before then? I mean, if she had no numbing agent, we know that because there was no numbing agent. So,
Unless she just slept that heavy.
or she was dead
Yeah,
already, or she was
yeah.
dead and stopped
Well,
already.
that's what
Because
I
there's
kinda meant by, like, subdued somehow, like she'd already been attacked at least to the
what do you
point.
say about that? Like I showed something that shows like an autopsy report or an autopsy, and in like we don't know what's true or not true, even in the paperwork, but in the fact that supposedly this happened over the course of a couple days, because when you look
Yeah.
at some of the bruises do appear older than some of the bruises.
Yeah, I have that exact picture that you're talking about, picture of the autopsy that you're talking about, and we were wondering about that too. Uh, and we looked back at the autopsy, and if you look at that picture very closely, we don't have to look at it real closely, but just simply zoom in on it,
Right, right.
then you'll see at the top where somebody like took white, like the color white, and kind of colored over what it really said, and then typed in, that she had been attacked over the last 2 days, and
Really? See, I didn't know that. I didn't
yeah,
know
because we
that.
were wondering about that. Yeah, and I really started looking into it. I was like, "Look at this, hubby. Look, look." Okay, and then I took a picture, a screenshot of the real autopsy, and I did the same thing. I colored over it stuff, and then went and typed over it. If you look at the typing they used, they tried to match it exactly, but
Right.
like some of the letters, they're not like the way the Y looks, for example, doesn't look the same way.
Very
Where it's
interesting.
yeah, if you look at that,
Yeah.
so I don't believe that that's real. I don't believe
Okay.
that that part of is real.
Okay, so well, leave Israel out of it. They're already got things going on. Okay, so we'll keep politics out of it. So, let me ask you this. So what about the theory? There's a theory going on that perhaps Dee Dee died in a different area and she was brought to the bed. And that's why there's no cast, a cast off. What do you think about
Well,
that?
I mean, yeah, that could be a possibility, but she was a big woman, and so Gypsy would have had to have some serious help from people who are still keeping their mouths shut,
Right. So I
over this.
agree with that, except let me tell you where there could be an issue with that. Just so you
Mhm.
know, because I saw this happen to somebody who was big. Now, granted and fine, yes, Dee Dee was a big woman, and with dead weight, it's even more so. But if you have a sheet under her and
Yeah,
there's a couple people pulling each, the sides and pulling her in,
but then
and
you'd
then
have
you
to lift.
hoist her up. Nope, you just have to hoist her, and then she just
Well,
lands. I'm not saying that didn't happen or that did
right,
happen. I'm saying I literally saw somebody who had fallen, who was big, an older person, and they couldn't get up.
right,
And the paramedics came, and that's what they did. They grabbed, they had something that they had to put under her, and they were
yeah,
able to, and then kind of put her in, her reclining type chair. So
yeah.
now I don't know if that happened or didn't happen, but it's hard for me to believe. Why do you think? Okay, let me ask you this. Why do you think Gypsy started telling Nick good things about her mom after he believes he unalived her?
Why do you think Gypsy started telling, or why do I think Gypsy started telling Nick that?
Good things about her
Yeah,
mom.
good
Because
things about.
remember in the interrogation room,
Mhm.
um, he said, I found out later she was a good mom. I felt bad, right? I felt worse than remorse.
Yeah, and that
Remember,
she
he
was
says that. So
compassionate.
he only found that out after, right? Because
Right,
supposedly he unalived her because she was a horrible person.
right. And some people say it was because, like, maybe for a moment, Gypsy felt guilty, but I don't believe that. That goes back to the ASPD thing, which I need to make a little bit more clear because I know people are going to call me out in the comment section on
Of
this, but
course they are. Of course they are.
the ASPD, like, people who have psychopathy and sociopathy, normally have ASPD and everything, but it really goes into the like a cluster B, thing, which it is a whole another video on its own. But it's people that have a like a long term pattern of being manipulative and violating, you know, other people, violating the rights of other people, and
Well, that's not
exploiting
exclusive
people.
to Gypsy Rose Blanchard, I'll tell you that. That's not
Right.
exclusive to Gypsy Rose.
That was my point with that. Yeah. So I think so I don't think that she done it because she felt bad. I really think that it was maybe testing Nick in a way, or just wanting to play with his head, because people, people who are like that, they get off on playing with someone's head. They get off on, being able to fool people and trick people. They will watch the way people act in society, and then they can mimic that,
Right, 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 right.
That's
Yeah, I've
another
heard
thing.
that. I've heard that. Yeah. So let me ask you this then. So, because I have another theory about that. So my theory about that was that I think that she wanted to make Nick feel bad. Yeah, we agree on that. But
Mhm.
I think that her goal was maybe for Nick to unalive himself.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it could be that too,
Because
because
that
I
would have
think
been
she felt.
that would have cleared her 1,000,000%. He killed my
Yeah.
mom and then killed himself.
Yeah, all because he wanted us to be together, and I didn't want to be with him, and he made me leave with him or something. Yeah.
She could have
Mhm.
done any of that, um but then then she reached out to the cops, right? Basically by saying the bitch is dead and all this and that. She
Yeah.
didn't really think that they were going to say, "Well, you're guilty too." Like
I know, and she says it was because she wanted her mom's body found. Was she wanting some type of life insurance? Because why would she do that after putting dryer sheets and everything else and baby powder everywhere and all of that? Why would she then make these posts on Facebook to have her mom found? Was it because she thought about the life insurance or something? It was on life insurance money? I don't know. Because I've thought about every bit of that. Why? Why did she? But it plain and simple. Some of these things just cannot be explained because we're talking about somebody who's a psychopath and a sociopath. We can't think like them, so it's really hard to explain a lot of the reasons why she did stuff. But I do believe most of it was to be manipulative and part of
Oh,
being
absolutely.
narcissistic.
So, my question. So, I have another question. So, I think that Nick, she did not count. I think she basically schooled Nick on what to say. And listen,
Yes.
I also want to go back to the bus ticket that Gypsy didn't buy herself. You remember,
Right.
she didn't. There was no bus ticket for her to leave. But I think that Gypsy was scripting Nick into taking the heat, basically. And that's why she asked him to mark her, by as far as like putting hands on her so that she would, be able to say that, he overpowered her per se. You know what I'm saying? And, but what she didn't count on, what she failed to count on was the fact that the police were going to lie to Nick because Nick was never taught that. I think Nick
Yeah.
was always taught that you go to the police and they're there for you. And I don't think that Nick realized until the very end when he said she lied to me, the officer, that interrogated him. Remember
Yeah.
he said that at the very end. Remember, like
Yeah.
she was supposed to come back, and so, but at the time when he's telling her, she's hitting all those right words about, well, you want to honor her, like you want to do the right thing by her. She has told us everything. And I believe wholeheartedly he believes that. So he puts his script away and he
Right.
starts
Yeah.
telling the truth. And that's totally what I think happened there. And she
Yeah.
didn't couldn't
Absolutely.
cover everything. Gypsy just she couldn't, foresee the future and know what his weakness would be as far as, oh, the police. And by the way, when the police tell you this, it's not going to be truthful, man. Don't buy into that. I don't think that she said that. She just had a script for him and thought
Right.
that
She
that would
didn't
be
think
enough.
of everything. And it was just, her being, manipulative and trying to keep control of the narrative and everything by, her telling him, good things about her mom and all of that, you know, after they unalived Dee Dee, it was just her trying to keep control over Nick, you know. But like you said, she didn't think of everything, and she didn't tell
Right.
him, "Hey, if the police tell you that I said something, don't believe them." You know,
Right, right,
I
right.
absolutely believe that.
So what do you think about the fact that she didn't get herself a ticket to get out of there?
That I don't know. See, that's where I go back to thinking, okay, there was somebody else there that she wanted to leave with. Because remember when Nick was on his way there, on the text messages, she was saying, and I don't know if this was just a manipulative thing to make him jealous because she gets off on somebody being jealous over her, or if it was true. But she was saying, I'm going to meet somebody at the coffee shop, and can I sleep with them,
Right, right, right.
and all of that, and just one last time, and then he told her no, and she was like, okay, well, we'll just meet it at the coffee shop for or at the cupcake shop for a coffee, and that'll be it. And he was like, well, just know that I'm going to be around and watching, but
Yeah.
then we never heard any more about her actually doing that. So I don't know if it was just to manipulate him to get him jealous or what, but it
Well,
goes back to me
exactly.
thinking else was there.
Well, we see from her behavior that there is usually somebody else there.
Yeah.
Is that true? I mean,
It's
that's
that,
true,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
And then the hat in the hallway. Nick didn't wear hats,
no.
and it was like the bill of the hat was straight. It hadn't been bent, and that's like a style. Some
Right,
guys,
I know.
want their
Yes,
hats to
right.
be straight, and
Flat,
some people will
flat.
bend them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like
So
it that way. I don't like
so
it
it
that way.
wasn't. Yeah. And people say, well, Gypsy wore hats all the time. She did, but the bills were always bent. They were never straight. And it's a
I
men's hat.
okay. Yeah, so what that's the thing, like,
I wish
see,
they would have tested all that.
that's why I don't think they would have done an autopsy. My mom, that's all they'd have to say. That's all she'd have to say. And I don't think I think that seriously, because she was sick. So I think that there was there were things I just want to know, like what was going on another device when she was talking to somebody else, because she wasn't just talking to Nick at that point, and we know that, like you said. I'm wondering if there's ever going to be something that's going to come up that's going to be like well something to the effect of, well, Dan, for example, or Brian, or whomever, or Sebastian, or Jim, or Bob. Or I can probably name a lot of names and get them all right, but um, and her saying, we'll be together in a couple weeks, something. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because what is there more to talk about with the Gypsy case now? Because my thing is I don't want to keep regurgitating stuff. These conversations are great because we're thinking of, well, why is this? Well, maybe it's this, and you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Like,
So, but to sit and just make videos over a case that we already know, like what more right now before anything comes out, um what is there to say? Like, I'm asking.
well, we're a much smaller channel, so I know we don't get, many views like, bigger channels may get and stuff, but every time we say something in a video that we've said before, two, three, four times, you know, we'll always get at least one or two comments where somebody was saying, "Thank you. I didn't know this or that
Right.
about,
Right.
the crime." So I guess that would other than that, I don't know another reason to keep talking about it, but and other than to
Well, to
educate
keep the
people about
narrative
other.
and to keep the narrative, but,
Right.
like, and I get that, but there's only so much to talk about. Would it I mean, like, there's only so much to talk about, only so much to go over. I mean, we can't be for the rest I'm not for the rest of my life, I don't plan on saying justice for Dee Dee, I'll be honest with you, because, there are other cases and we can't bring Dee Dee back. And
And
God knows
right,
we
and it
tried to
doesn't.
help Nick. We literally tried to help Nick, but Nick sabotages his own shit. So, I mean, I'm not
And
willing to
that's
do that
something a lot
again.
of people don't know. So yes, when you explained in a video that you did how all these people took the time to write letters to help him, and you sent all these letters off for him.
Well,
Someone wrote an amazing.
in all fairness, I was not the only content creator to do that. I know
Oh
that
no,
Trixie
yeah.
Lane did that, and
We sent off a few, but we did not like you did and Trixie Lane and stuff, but we had a few people send us some letters, and we printed them off and sent them, for
right,
people. And then
right, right,
we had people tell us, like, send us their letter and ask if this was okay or if they needed to change
right,
anything,
right,
email
right,
it off
right, right,
themselves.
right.
But then to find out Nick got all of this and just, you know,
Didn't
apparently
you?
it was MPG Cornerstone that told him this to throw it all away and go with their letter, eh, was absolutely wild to me. Like, really? You see
Yeah,
all these
so
people trying to help you
yeah, and I wrote to Nick, and he doesn't. Um, hmm,
because you
you
even
know,
showed that guy from what, Ireland, who was in MPG Cornerstone, and he was
mhm,
saying, all of this stuff.
yeah. So, Nick just, you know, I'm not sorry that I wrote to the warden to say, "Hey, somebody's messing with him. Like, he's entitled to get his commissary money without a GoFundMe attached to it. People could
Right,
just." So, and to the chaplain too, and a few people I gotta tell you wrote, and I printed those letters out and wrote. I said, it's none of my business what's going on, but it's the job of the jail or prison to protect the inmates from themselves
mhm,
and each other. And somebody's taking this man's money because if
yeah,
anything, they're at least taking a fee from GoFundMe, and that doesn't need to happen. And
right,
so, you know, and but Nick, I don't know what to say to him again. We've only corresponded a couple times. It's really, really brief correspondence. And it might be because he was told not to talk to me. It might be because he doesn't trust anybody. But I can't work, um, more for somebody than they're willing to work for themselves. And
right.
he might be, and I hate to say this because, definitely, because if you go to my other channel, I definitely do not say this about the Whitakers, but I think that with Nick and his autism, I asked him point blank, "Do you wanna get out of there?" And I explained to him very nicely, there's people that don't wanna get out of jail. I mean, like, there's people that are get into a routine and they're used to it and this is their life.
Yeah.
And I told him the story about the guy that left the jail and went across the street, threw the brick through the window. It's not funny to come back because, like, he
They
said
will though.
I have no this is where I want to be. He took insult to that. And I said, please don't be insulted. I'm just asking you because if I'm going to help you, I want to know that that's not where you want to be. Like, I don't want to help somebody that's want to stay where they're at. And I knew
Right.
he was working with dogs, and stuff like that. And, he did take insult to that. Um, it doesn't
I
matter.
hate that.
And that's all right. but he said that he wanted to leave. So my big question would be, well, what the fuck are you still doing there? Why didn't you do anything to help yourself leave? I mean, like, you
Yeah.
didn't, and I don't mean to bash his dad, but
Mhm.
I don't see a lot of help there. Like, you wanted, like, I mean, like, seriously, you had people willing to help your son. You had people sending letters, taking the time out to print these letters out and to, go to the post office and send them out and reach out to the lawyer. You had people that were showing proof that they were working for your son. The man never reached out to me. Never reached out and said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Or, "Hey," and not that he has to ask me anything, but what have you done? If you're
Right.
part of NPG Cornerstone, which supposedly he's an administrator on, I mean, like, what have they done? They put out
Yeah.
some videos that are AI, and I mean, what have they done?
Yeah, and that's like the prisoners, the inmates that will get released and come back is because they don't know how to live out here. They don't know how to
They're
pay bills
institutionalized.
and stuff. Yeah, they're institutionalized. But do you think maybe his dad maybe doesn't have the money to help Nick if he was to get released and help Nick get on like on his
Well,
own or like have an
here's the
apartment
thing.
for
Well,
him?
the first thing you do is you don't go there. The first thing you do is go to, well, how do we get him an appeal? How do we help my son? Well, how do we
Yeah,
do that? That's
but
the
maybe
first
that's
place
why
you
he's
go,
not helping him. 'Cause he's
because
scared of him getting out.
but if Nick were to get out, I think that there would be some sort of program for him. So you think, in other words, his dad might think this is the best place for him? That could
Yeah, I
be.
think he may be thinking like, I think it may be a possibility that his dad's thinking, "Well, maybe this is better for him because, you know, he gets 3 meals a day, he has a
He's
place to sleep,
safe.
he doesn't
He's
have to worry about
basically
paying
safe.
bills."
And he's
Yeah,
basically safe. He's not gonna be really manipulated in there, because even if he at this point, this is the way I think about Nick in there. He's been in there long enough. He seems like a likable enough guy, seriously.
yeah,
And to me, he's probably made some really good friends in there, people that kinda look out for him. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So, and, he's training dogs, so he has a purpose. I'm not saying that that's enough for him or that should be enough for him, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying
mhm,
that his life is probably not as horrible as a lot of people think, because he's in
right,
a prison, and a prison gives you a little bit more freedom, obviously, than a jail.
mhm,
And, I think that people, newer inmates that come in are probably gonna, reach out to him, so he's got even like a role there. You know what I'm saying?
right,
Where,
yeah,
so I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just showing that this is what I think his life is like there. Does he want to get out? He says he wants to get out, but
yeah,
I don't see where he's done anything to help himself get there.
right, especially after throwing away all those letters. That's wild. That's seriously not helping yourself. It really is.
Well, here's the thing, like, okay, so those letters I don't know that those letters were thrown away, because I mean, like, the appeal thing was something different than the letter that was actually written to kind of like ask for the appeal or show the reasons for the appeal. So why would they take those letters from everybody? I think what I thought happened was not that that happened, not that they took those letters and threw them away. I understand that somebody took the time to write something, which later I saw, and I thought, that's a pretty good fucking letter. It's long as fuck, but I mean, it
Yeah,
kind of covers shit. But I saw the letter that they put up, and I was like, "Oh, I wouldn't have gone with that at all. I definitely would have gone with the other one." So, and these are people, and Nick didn't do that. Somebody helped him do that. So the same person that helped him do that, in my opinion, I would assume, probably said to him, "Don't use that letter." The letter that
yeah,
might have helped him more. So again, he's got people that have now disappeared per se that were part of NPG Cornerstone, the older group of NPG Cornerstone. I don't know why that happened. Maybe it happened because of those letters. Maybe it happened because I wrote to the warden and said, "Hey, why?" Not that I said, "Hey," but
Yeah.
why did this? What's going on here? And don't answer to me. You certainly don't answer to me, but please check his monies because nobody should be manipulating him, you know?
Right.
So, and the chaplain as well. So I don't know if that made some of those people step down. I don't know. I would have to look at the timeline on that. But, you know, here's my thing about Nick. It's not that I want Nick to run free. That's not my call. I just want Nick to get a fair trial. That's all I ever wanted was for him to get a fair trial and then let the judge decide or the jury decide, what the penalty is or what the if he, what's going on. Gypsy got more than a fair trial. She fucking lied. You know what I'm saying? So they took
Exactly. Yeah.
her fake mitigating circumstances and made up bullshit and they decided shit. In the meantime, Nick had the truth on his side and that didn't matter. And that's horrible because they stopped the investigation too soon. And when Gypsy took the plea deal, like everything went to hell.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I cannot believe they did that, especially knowing that Nick was still going to have to go to trial. Why not continue the investigation to, especially if y'all were trying to, give him the DP, or keep him in there for life? Why wouldn't you continue the investigation? Why wouldn't you test all these things,
Yeah.
test all this evidence?
I
But
agree. And I spoke to Becca about that in the last video we did together and I asked her, how much are we missing because the plea deal came about and all of that evidence just got chucked. And she was like, "So much, Toddie, so much." See, they
yeah.
shouldn't do that. And they did the same thing like with the and I always bring this up with the Madeline Soto case. They let Jen, her mother, walk and
Oh, yeah.
her mother knew that her boyfriend, the mother's
Yeah.
boyfriend, was having X with this young girl who died at 13 years old, 4 days after her 13th birthday. But because she had this immunity, and she's still young enough to have other children, like that's a fucking concern. Come on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it really
even
is.
say things where we hear her say, I was afraid of the Woody Allen scenario. You didn't know nothing? You knew what was going on. Like, shame on you. Child endangerment? I mean, like trafficking your child, maybe? No charges against this woman. So, this is the problem, in my opinion, when there's plea deals because things stop, but they might not
Mhm.
always get it all. They might not always get it all. So what is it? The person that turns on the other person gets the free deal. It doesn't matter if they're telling the truth, right or wrong, or what. It's just it's not.
It doesn't. It was political. The DA wanted to be
Oh yeah,
voted
no,
back
no, I
in,
know. Yep,
and
yep.
everybody felt sorry for Gypsy at the time because they didn't know anything and they didn't see. I mean, I still see
Well, they
comments to
thought
this
the
day.
Munchausen by proxy. They definitely thought the Munchausen by proxy, but we
Mhm.
saw that was invented. Gypsy
Right.
didn't even claim that shit. Gypsy never claimed anything until they gave it to her. They
Yep.
gave her those words.
You're exactly right. Yep. And I still see comments to this day, like not on our videos, but like I see comments, on TikTok, YouTube, whatever, where people are saying, well, if this or that's true, or if Dee Dee didn't really have,
Munch
Munchausen by proxy, then why wouldn't they show all that when she went to court? Because she did not go to trial. She did not have to
Right.
have a trial. They were coming up with all of this. Mike Stanfield was and his little team. They were coming up with all of these excuses, when they thought she was going to have to go to trial before she was
Yeah,
offered
they
the plea.
gave her an alibi is what they did, and she
Yeah,
lied to them. So I think what she said to them was all of the ailments, like she took advantage. Like I think she knew that there was a scam going on because I mean the birth date alone would say that that was illegal.
yeah,
So
and
I
this
think
like
that go ahead.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But that's like the chemotherapy, she said, when she done her stupid little TikTok video of explaining her illnesses and what Dee Dee what she was trying to say Dee Dee did to her that she didn't. She was showing her teeth and stuff, and she was like, "This right here, there's just no reason for this." And then the chemotherapy, that just simply didn't happen. Then why do we have you on video, Gypsy, saying that yes, I did chemo. Yes, I went through chemotherapy, and then saying, I'm 33 years old or 32 years old, and I've got dentures already, and then she literally finished that sentence by saying, the producers of Lifetime asked her, why do you have dentures? And she said, because chemotherapy and things like that will make will make your teeth rot. And so, that's how I got my free dentures. When now she's saying she never went through chemotherapy. She was doing a live. I've got screenshots of the comments where she was doing a live and someone said, "Please don't tell me you really went through chemotherapy." And Gypsy was like, "Twice a week, every week."
Mm-mm-mm, mm-mm.
Commented back to the person, commented back to the person that. So it it's so annoying the way she just lies like that, and she forgets her lies too. I
And the
no
worst
longer
of it
trying to
is,
call her out.
but here's the thing. A lot of people see it. Like we know that there are more people that see it in this community than don't see it, right? But the problem is that the mainstream media, but the mainstream media obviously is taking a good look because of everything that's going on here on social media. And
Right.
the fight for the truth and you know giving Dee Dee her legacy back, returning, her truthful legacy to her.
Right. And
Um,
if people
and
stop talking about Gypsy, it doesn't mean that we wouldn't still want justice for Dee Dee or justice for Nick. It's just
right,
like you said, there's other things to bring attention to as well.
right, right, right. And I mean, like, to me, my feeling is, the stuff coming out on Gypsy now is more like it's her trying to be a celebrity, right? It's her trying to um make herself popular, make herself famous, even though she's horribly infamous and has notoriety, which is shit, but nobody, it's not good. Like, so I think that, when we talk about my feeling, like, I don't want to keep talking about her hair. The only reason why I want to talk about her hair is because she can't keep it. You know what I mean? Like it, and that shows a pattern in somebody, that shows a behavioral thing. As far as her wearing new clothes and showing dances, the only thing I could say that shows is she's an exhibitionist, which we already know. God knows we know that. And she's full of herself, which we know that.
Right.
So I don't mind, talking about stuff like that. And if I see something funny, I'm gonna like piggyback off of it and I'm gonna make, jokes about stuff like that because why not? But
Well, like you said, it does show a pattern, and even with these new wigs, one was $2,100, one was like
crazy,
$2,500.
right?
That's a lot of money. And then she's gone and she's cut on these wigs and colored them and then colored them back, and she can't leave it alone. And apparently, she continues to mess with her hair or the human hair of others on her wig because she gets stressed out and stuff. It
Right.
it's wild. Her behavior is ridiculous.
It's
Who does
absolutely
that?
crazy. Gypsy. Gypsy does that. Gypsy does that. So
You're
well,
right.
what are you looking forward to most? What do you want to see in the next batch that comes out? What is the thing that you want to see, or what would it take for you to say, okay, this case is done and over with now. Next.
Like what type of case I want to talk about, or like
No, no, no.
what
Like,
kind of
no.
FOIAs?
So, what would it take for the first question? What are you hoping that will come out next about Gypsy in regards to FOIAs or information? What are you looking for? What are you hoping will come out? What are you looking forward to?
Oh, I'd love to hear like any types of phone calls where she could possibly be admitting to something or something, something like that. Like the part one, it's going to have to be a part two, but part one of a video that we're getting ready to put out, has to do with things that she, continues to do, which it could possibly land her in some big trouble. And we've done what we've done before and made some phone calls, to find out information, not to get anybody in trouble, right now or anything like that, just to get some information.
Right,
But, and that's another thing, she keeps the stuff that she continues to do because of her narcissism, because of her ASPD and everything else. She can't help it. She needs to be talked about. She needs the attention. That's why
right,
she will
right,
put on her wigs and color them to stay in the spotlight. But I would love to hear any phone calls that were recorded, uh, any types of other reports, like where she was reporting on other inmates or where inmates were reporting on her, making reports on her while she was
right,
locked. Anything like that that could uncover maybe why she possibly drug Nick into this, or was there somebody else really there? Something that could really solidify the things that we have theories on right now.
right, right, right. I agree. I agree with that. So
Yeah.
what would it take? What would it take for you to close that case on Gypsy and say, okay, this case is done and over with now, and then go on to something else? What would it be? When do you think what will it take for you to say, okay, we've covered everything, case over, next?
Um, I don't know, because I really kind of feel like we would always cover her, to talk about the things that she's still doing and how she's more than likely gonna land herself right back in, prison or something at some point. Not saying for unaliving someone, but for doing something else. And her
Right,
having that felony owner is definitely gonna look bad. But I guess for like a new case to come out, that we could actually follow. Like we see new cases come out all the time, new crimes happening all the time that we could talk about.
unfortunately, yeah, unfortunately, for sure, yep,
Yeah. And like we've talked about Austin Drummond, who
right,
unalived, the four people or three people, and then, left the baby of the young couple, at one town over in someone's, yard at
right,
someone's front door. But there hasn't been really anything to follow up on that. He's went to court, and pled not guilty. Well, the judge did it for him, pled not guilty for him because he didn't have any representation. But since then, there hasn't really been anything to, follow up on with that. So
right,
for a case that we could follow up on and actually really get into, that would be interesting to talk about, and talk about what could possibly happen or what did possibly happen, where we could talk about all those things.
right,
That would be amazing. Well, I
right,
mean, having a crime happen wouldn't be amazing, but like
right,
being able to have, what if a crime's going to happen, us being able to actually have something to talk about with it.
right, 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 right. Okay, well, that's all interesting. Is there anything that you need to say or want to say? Because I'm ready to kind of close this down.
No, just thank you so much for having me, and
I love having you on my
hopefully
channel.
people. I really enjoy having conversation with you. I do appreciate it. and hopefully people will find it interesting. You actually talked about the thing we called about, and asked questions about. You actually talked about it in a video. So
Really?
yeah, hopefully people will find us following up on that, and the phone calls we made that we're going to play or whatever. Hopefully people will find that interesting.
And when will that video be out?
Either in the next 2 days. So
Cool. Cool.
yeah,
Cool.
if not tomorrow, then the next day.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. I know that hubby was here for a minute before we went ahead and started recording, so please make sure that you tell him that I said have a good evening.
I will.
And
I
I
know he will do the
appreciate you,
same.
Lovey. I appreciate you, and thank you as always for coming on the channel and discussing Gypsy Rose Blanchard with us here.
Of
So,
course, anytime. Thank you.
all right, and guys, Night Convos, KNIGHTCONVOS, right there where it says it, and I'll go ahead and put the link to that channel below. So.
Thank you.